A lot of them are from right here in the community, and so yeah, yeah, we'll be all right.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. I
You
really
bet. All right.
appreciate it. Thank
Very
you.
good. Yep. Thank you.
Gary?
I'm sorry.
Did you say your name is Gary?
Yes.
Okay, it is.
Sorry about that. If you are joining us right now on Facebook, I will be doing a live shot for K2 in just a bit. But yeah, we are over here in Mosier. As you can see behind me, the Wasco County Sheriff's has this street closed. We are on Cherry Hill Drive. That is Cherry Hill Drive, what you're looking at. We are at Cherry Hill Drive and Kingdom Road. This is where that brush fire occurred. It appears that these crews have it contained and under control. We are not seeing any active flames or smoke. And I was just talking to a gentleman who lives nearby, and he was saying that, this is kind of surprising that it's happening earlier around this time. We are just in the end of May, and this, you know, excuse me, that this is happening right over here in Mosier. But at the same time, he's also concerned the fact that it was just so quick that they set this level 3 go now evacuation order. So very concerning for him, although he says that people who live in this area are pretty used to this, pretty used to brush fires occurring nearby. And so that is a situation here right now.
Okay, they're trying to get you.
Yes. By the way, I'm talking to my producer right now. Yes. 2.5 acres burned. Copy that. Mopped up. Okay, that sounds okay. Cool. Yeah, I was just talking to my producer right now, and she was telling me that fire crews have posted that these are about 2 acres that have burned, but it's being mopped up, so they're at the very end stage of this right now. And you'll hear me be quiet for a little bit because they're going to start tossing to me in shortly. But yeah, we are over here in Mosier where this fire has been burning, and of course it's pretty much not spreading, so that's certainly some good news. But we're also noticing the amount of winds that are have been picking up in the last few minutes. This is concerning because it's the dry conditions, the amount of winds. When you get that mixture, it tends to be a sort of perfect storm for brush fire. And so I'm still listening to them talk, but so forgive me if I pause. But yeah, that's sort of a perfect storm for a brush fire to start, and that is obviously concerning. And so, no doubt, I'm sure these firefighters were pretty much ready for something like this, and they responded pretty quickly. They tackled it and kept it from spreading. So that's certainly some good news. But still, all right, 30 seconds out, copy that. So we're 30 seconds away from the live shot over the air, so just bear with me. Yeah, we were also just talking to some neighbors here who were caught by surprise. They call it, it's been a long day. So you can imagine um, anyone dealing with this kind of evacuation order would think that way. That's right, Deb and Steve. In fact, fire crews say that this fire burned about 2 acres and it is being mopped up. So they are at the end stages of clearing up this fire. But let me show you the scene right now. This is Cherry Hill Drive. We are at the intersection of Cherry Hill and Kingdom Road. And you can see the Wasco County Sheriff's deputies here have the road blocked off. And then fire crews up on that hill. That is where the fire is believed to have started, prompting a evacuation order, a level 3 evacuation go now order. And so we've been talking to neighbors around here, and they were pretty surprised that this kind of brush fire would start early this year. I mean, we're just barely at the end of May, not even in the summer months, and now this fire sparking. Even neighbors were telling me that they are used to something like this happening, of course, in the summer months. They've been ready for something like this, but at the same time, they were also shocked that it happened this early and that evacuation order happened so quick. But they are also crediting, of course, these firefighters for moving really quickly. And I mean, we've been here for about 30 minutes now, and we have not seen any sort of fire or any sort of smoke. And so that's certainly some good news. But keep in mind, it is windy and it is dry, so sort of the perfect storm for this kind of fire. That is the latest here from Mosier. I'm Victor Park, K2 News. Yep. Now, for the rest of you on Facebook, we are continuing our live shot over here. So we're going to just kind of show you the scene right here. I mean, like I was showing earlier over the air, Wasco County deputies have this road blocked off. It's interesting because so you are looking at Cherry Hill Drive. There is a sign that I'm looking at that says private road restricted access. So for whatever reason, that probably belongs to some kind of homeowner up there. But that is where the fire is believed to have started. They've got a perimeter. So they've got this map that I've been looking at online, and it shows this huge perimeter surrounding Wasco County. And I believe it's to the east. In fact, I'm going to pull it up right now, but I believe it's to the east of it that is that level, let's see, so there's level 2 set just sort of towards I-84. There's that level 2B set. Level 3 go now is along Cherry Hill Drive, and then there is another level 2 set just outside of that. So that is just east of this fire, east of Kingdom Drive. Where the Mosier Plateau Preserve is at. They are under level 2B set. Not a lot of homes around here, but certainly enough to obviously be of concern for these crews. And obviously you have to understand that the wind direction could always change, and that's when things could get out of control if this fire was to continue burning. And, go towards I-84. That's where you have a lot of those homes with a beautiful view over the Columbia River. In fact, I want to show that. If we could pan to the right, my photographer David Kazan is going to show you that. That is the view we have right now. That is the Columbia River. Those are some homes that you're looking at just in front of us, and that is obviously a concern to these firefighters. But I mean, it all depends on the wind direction. If the wind was to go west, or rather south, it's not much to burn, but a lot of, trees and grass. But you could also call that fuel. However, I do notice if we show this kind of the north side of this road, that area is pretty well maintained. And so obviously that is some good, it's not fuel over there to burn that could eventually spread to a structure. So some good stuff right there that people have been preparing for, obviously. They have to do this every year. So anyway, but in the meantime, as we continue to show you this shot here along Terry Hill Drive, you'll see that crews are still here. There are no new fire trucks coming in. We actually, when we were pulling up, we did see one fire truck leaving. So when you see that, crews are leaving. No more crews arriving. Obviously, they have this thing under control. And as we've been noting, that this fire burned about 2 acres, according to the fire department, and is pretty much in the mop-up stage. So that's when those crews have their old, shovels, and they're just kind of like digging into the ground, making sure nothing else is burning, throwing more water into there so that it doesn't spark up again. But still, you got these winds over here. It's not too bad, but sometimes it's enough to just spark another blaze when you talk about those embers that could fly for miles. But certainly, thankfully, that has not happened. And let's see where this stands in the next few days, because we have seen cases where it would be burning one day, it looks like they have it under control, and then all of a sudden, the next few days changes. So let's hope that's not the case here. But still very much a concern for firefighters. Sometimes they'll end up monitoring this. They'll have a crew there monitoring it overnight. I don't know if that's going to be the case in this fire, but that could certainly happen because they want to be on top of it, obviously. So just going back to what this gentleman was telling me, he was saying that there is that he was here, and then he got the notification. He also saw that there was some smoke. He was surprised to see this happening at this time, but at the same time not surprised to see that it is happening, because he says is used to seeing fires occur here near Mosier, or in Mosier, and above these hills just south of the gorge. He was saying how he is in the last 10 years he's been seeing it happen earlier and earlier in the year, and so he's concerned how much are they going to have to start dealing with it. I mean, let's hope it doesn't happen in April, but he's concerned about that. So we also saw him earlier delivering some waters to these deputies, because he is pretty much thankful of their work, obviously, and the fire crews for working so quick to contain this. But again, if you are joining us live here on Facebook, this is a fire that prompted a level 3 evacuation order, a level 3 go now evacuation order to some residents. I don't know how many residents it actually impacts, but there are quite a few homes around here, and so referring to a neighbor around here, was surprised to see this occurring this early. But I mean, it is windy and it is dry, and so fire crews have contained it. Before I say that, no, they have not said that they contained it, but they did say that it was 2 acres, and they are in the mop-up stages. So that's pretty much ending over here. We've also been here for about 30 minutes or so, and we haven't seen any smoke or any flames, so that's certainly some good news. But what you're looking at is Cherry Hill Drive. These are the Wasco County deputies here that have it blocked off. It is a private road, as a sign says over there, Cherry Hill Drive. it is obviously closed off. That's the only street that appears to be closed because we are on Kingdom Drive. Kingdom Drive is open. Cherry Hill Drive eventually opens up east of Kingdom Drive, and so deputies are not blocking that off. That's where the majority of homes I'm looking at right now are. Those homes have been of concern for these firefighters because, as I said earlier, that you never know where these winds could take those embers. The winds may be blowing in one direction, and if it was to blow south of the Columbia Gorge, it's got a lot of fuel, no homes, but a lot of fuel to burn, and maybe not much of a threat. But when it starts moving eastward or north towards the Columbia Gorge, that's when it becomes a concern. And obviously, we're talking about the winds blowing. That's when it could start burning homes. But thankfully, that didn't happen. Looks like they've got it under control. We'll see what occurs in the next few hours. We do see one other crew over here. I don't know if he's a public information officer. If he is, that would be great because we would like to hear from him. But we will wait as you guys continue watching as he gets ready also and gets booted up to come up here. So we'll see. All right, guys, and of course, welcoming our Facebook viewers again here on K2. So we are here in Mosier. This is Kingdom Drive, Cherry Hill behind me. That is where that fire occurred earlier. 2 acres, prompting this level 3 go now evacuation order, which, by the way, it's still in effect. I have not heard or gotten any word that they are ending that. So it's still in effect. If you're in the area, you certainly want to be aware that that's happening. And here is why. Let me pan. My photographer, David Kazan, is going to be panning right over here to show you the homes right over here. All of this were threatened by this fire because of the winds that we are seeing. Look at those leaves just sway. You know, like those winds and the dry weather is the perfect storm for these fires. And God forbids, but these embers could easily have blown to these homes, and it would have been a disaster. But thankfully, no. In the last few minutes, we heard that these crews managed to get to the mop-up stage of this fire. They managed to hopefully control it. You can see a fire truck leaving. That is a good news. That fire truck, obviously, it's a tanker. They don't need this fire. Let me talk to this gentleman. Are you a PIO?
Yes.
Awesome, great. Okay, we are live on Facebook right now, and we'll certainly need you for our broadcast. But are you available to talk? Are you available to talk?
Am I available to talk?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, I'll have you stand here.
Okay.
And then you'll look at me, of course.
Yep.
And by the way, first, last name, and spell it, please, and then your title.
Sure. It's Andy Dwyer, ANDY DWYER, and I'm a public information officer with Oregon Department of Forestry.
Okay, from start to finish, can you tell me what occurred?
Yeah, so I'm just catching up to speed, just arriving on scene. But what we had was a small brush fire, so it was light fuels. So essentially a fire that caught in like grassy type fuels. And ODF and some of the local fire districts showed up on scene. As far as I know, it was roughly 2.5 acres. They were able to put containment line around the fire. So they're in what's called mop-up now. So they're just kind of cleaning up, making sure that they're catching all the hot spots and things that are still burning.
But it still prompted this level 3 evacuation order, right? So tell me a little bit about that and what sparked that.
Yeah, so anytime that there's a fire that's kind of this close to an urban area where you have residences, if it's a wildfire or however it started and it's spreading, if it's this close, as you can see, we're kind of in an urban environment, even though it was a wildfire, that's going to prompt evacuations almost immediately. And the reason we were able to detect this fire so quickly is that thanks to the legislator investment in Oregon Department of Forestry, We have an advanced camera detection system, and that's actually how this fire was detected, through our camera system. So we've been monitoring it as it's been going. It's been pretty neat.
Wow. So you guys were monitoring it and noticed there was smoke and fire and figured, hey, we got to get there.
Yes, I was actually, so when I got the call to come out, I was talking to folks in the Dalles, working with ODF, in Prineville with ODF, all watching it through our camera system. So pretty fantastic, pretty neat.
Um, winds are not too bad, but it's still not good here, right? Along with the dry weather. Tell me about the impact that, and of concern especially to these firefighters.
Yeah, so wind, I mean, we're in the Columbia Gorge, so there's always going to be some level of wind, which any type of fire that starts, wildfire that starts in this area, typically prompts a type 3, so a lot of different agencies show up to the fire. We have wind factor. You can see we have different topography, some steep slopes. So anything like that's going to cause, an immediate response, and then try to get ahead of it as soon as we can, especially when it's so close to the urban environment.
I was talking to some neighbors over here, and they weren't surprised that there was a wildfire here because one guy, he's been living here for like 10 years, and he said, they are seeing it happening earlier and earlier in the year, but he was surprised that it happened this early in late May. Is that something you guys are seeing too, or?
Wildfire behavior is, it's hard to predict. The fuels, the grass, the shrub, the trees, with wind and the sort of a heat spell like this, you can always have those fuels dry out a little bit more rapidly. So, I'm not, with that coupled with changing climate, environment, we don't know how dry the fuels or where it started, how dry the fuels are within where it started. So it could have been, started in a fire receptive area that has a lot of dry fuels that were already dry from last year. We just don't know. But is it early? Yeah, it feels early, but it's hard to say. Not. Yeah.
What does it say for all these communities along the gorge? What is your message to them?
So one thing that I would suggest is if you're going to be burning piles, if you were burning piles, in early spring or even last year, so I would recommend those homeowners go out and kind of check those piles to make sure there's not holdovers. And what I mean by holdovers is make sure there's no heat that gets rekindled from the wind. So we've had instances where folks that have forested areas or large acreage, they'll burn some slash or debris that they had from last year, and they'll burn it in the fall. They can burn it in the snow essentially, and that some of those piles can have larger fuels that hold those, that kind of smolder and hold that fuel. And then when it kicks up, when you get a wind and a heat spell like this, it can kick up. So my recommendation would be go check those piles, and then make sure that if you're going to be burning piles, the window's closing very rapidly. We're in Wasco County, and Oregon Department of Forestry June 2nd goes into a burn ban, so no more burning for debris piles. And we're going into fire season on June 2nd. So we're not quite in fire season yet, so no regulations in right now, but next week we'll be going into regulations. So check with your local fire district, your local ODF office, and just get up to date, get up to speed, and make sure especially, and if, there's a lot of camping that happens in the Columbia Gorge, so know before you go. Check the land, the ownership of the land that you're going, and make sure that the regulations that are happening there. So if they have a campfire ban or whatever it is, just make sure you're checking.
Obviously, people should be ready to go at any point because, like you said, we are entering fire season.
Yeah, and then the other thing for homeowners you can do is, reach out to ODF or reach out to Oregon State Fire Marshal and get a home assessment done. So if you're living in a wildfire-prone area, there's some small steps you can take in making sure that dry fuels are cleaned up, making sure that your lawns or your landscapes are staying green and you're watering, making sure that you're keeping vegetation off the house. So there's steps you can take to kind of get your home a little bit more adapted or defensible.
And it looks like some of these folks are actually doing a good job with that. Talk about your crews, because I heard from a neighbor who said, geez, they were able to put this so quickly, and now these neighbors are able to sleep tonight.
Yeah, fantastic crews and good partnerships. I think that's critical. We have great partnerships with the local fire districts. So Oregon Department of Forestry works closely with kind of all of them. We work closely with the Forest Service, the fire marshals. You know, my hat's off to them. Again, thanks to that detection system, the camera detection system, and the legislative investment. I mean, that's huge, right? Money goes a long way when it comes to fire. So because of that investment, we were able to kind of get out here quickly and get a hold of it pretty fast.
Credit to the legislative investment. Are you concerned at all? I mean, this is a little aside from this, but are you concerned at all about any federal cuts or anything like that? We've been hearing that from a lot of, you know, forestry crews. So
Yeah.
that's why I want to ask you.
You know, I would say that no one really appreciates uncertainty, especially when it comes to preparedness and wildfire preparedness. But with that, I can't really speak on the federal front, but what I can say is the state understands that, you know, they're having some uncertainty, and we're stepping it up, and we're kind of showing up and getting ready and prepared as we do every year. So it's you know, standard practice for us to just be ready and prepared for the fires and fire season.
When did this camera was put up there?
I can't answer. I don't know.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm actually not sure. So
But obviously it helped. Okay,
yes,
cool.
yeah, the camera system's great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
for
welcome.
talking to us.
All right, take care.
Hi. Okay, and as you, if you're still joining us on Facebook, as you heard, credit to that camera system that they had up there. They managed to spot this. It wasn't even a 911 caller. It was the fact that they had a camera up there and they were able to spot this and act really quickly to this. They were able to control it. It is officially contained. It was about 2.5 acres, but it is not spreading anymore. And so again, they contained it. They are in the mop-up stage, and so now they obviously have to monitor it. But if you do live in the area, I mean, just keep that in mind that this is certainly a warning to as to what could happen, especially if you do have those burn piles he was talking about. He was talking about that kind of trash that, you know, in rural areas is different. You don't have the normal trash service that you have every week where a trash truck comes in. We know that. When you live in a rural area, they burn it, right? But those burn piles could eventually be fuel for those fires, especially when it becomes this windy. And so that is of concern, and that is what he was talking about when it comes to the people who live not just here in Mosier, but, you know, in any other area in Oregon where you could have those fuels. And so certainly something to keep in mind. Hats off to these crews who were able to put it away really quickly. But again, a lot of people able to sleep tonight because they were able to stop it. But if you were just, if you are unfamiliar with what happened here, this is in Mosier. This is Cherry Hill Drive right over here. We are at the intersection of Kingdom Drive and Cherry Hill. You can see the Wasco County deputies right over there. They have the road blocked off. And up the road right over there is where that fire started. It was a fairly small one, just about 2.5 acres. And then those fire crews right over there, you can see them still dealing with this, mopping it up though, but still present. It was a mutual aid response, meaning they had ODF, so the Oregon Department of Forestry, along with other fire departments who responded and tackled this. And so we are here now. Level 3 evacuation go now orders still up. I forgot to ask him about it. In fact, let me ask him real quick. Hey, sorry, is the evacuation order still up?
You'd have to check Wasco County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, that was it. Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah, but I would think yes.
yes,
But I can't say.
that's fine. Okay. On Facebook. Yeah. That's okay. Yes. Friends over here from KGW. Yeah, because this is obviously of concern, and so gotta check. You know, I'll probably end up checking their Facebook right now. We get a lot of our notifications from that. That's how we find out about those evacuation orders, or they'll send press releases out. But I'm gonna check right now to see if there is still that evacuation order. But at last check, it certainly was. So let's see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so no update. They still have this information at 3:45. A brush fire was reported in the 300 block of Cherry Hill Drive in Mosier. Um, so I'm just reading this press release, and it says a level 3 go now, and level 2 get said evacuation remain in place for residences in the immediate area. So no update there. Still an evacuation order. But it appears that they have it contained. As my photographer pointed it out, that we did see some fire trucks leaving during the interview with the firefighter, and so that's certainly some good news. Even when we were arriving, we also saw a fire truck leave, so that's good news there. But it is happening a little bit earlier than usual, according to some neighbors around here who have lived here for at least a decade, who say that it did surprise them to see that, but also not surprising to see a wildfire occurring up here. And again, just goes back to the quick reactive approach that these firefighters were able to make because of a camera system. They credit the Oregon state legislature. I'll have to look more into this, but the Oregon state legislature funded this camera system that they put up in certain parts of Oregon, and that is one where they were able to spot this. They don't know exactly what started this fire, but they also said that we are entering fire season, and it is something to keep in mind that things could start. I mean, it could have been an area that had not burned last year or a while, and it could have been dry for a while. And so when you have these winds and the dry weather, it could, obviously that's fuel for these fires. And so that could have started that. Sometimes it could be a burn pile from winter, where at some point, there was fuel that never really burned, and then now you have these winds, and it causes that, friction, if you're familiar with physics, and so obviously that starts a fire, and it could be a disaster. But thankfully, it's not a disaster here. We'll see what this means for the rest of the fire season here in Oregon. And as we stay on Facebook, the other thing we are noticing is it's a little bit cooler right now. We're also seeing some clouds coming over us. So, of course, those of you who have been watching on Facebook, thanks a lot for joining us. This has been coverage of this wildfire that burned here in Mosier, prompting level 3 evacuation orders. As of right now, let's see, what time is it? 7:04 p.m. Those evacuation orders are still in place. Wasco County Sheriff's here, along with several fire crews from ODF and other agencies. They were able to knock this thing down. They're in a mop-up stage, stop the spread of the wildfire from threatening any other homes. And so that's certainly some good news here.